Hello. Welcome to the eighth episode of the Dead Soon podcast. I'm Trevor. I'm starting to one a little bit differently, just because I guess you'll see. But I'm Trevor McCormick. My dream is to work for Supercell one day, which is a company. So this episode will be a deep dive into my history around the company, around the games that they create, my thoughts on the direction of the company, issues the company faces, basically like can they accomplish their mission, which is to create games for as many people as possible that are played for years and remembered forever. I've been playing Supercell games for 10 plus years, and they've become a pretty central part of my life, so I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable on the topic. So, this is just going to be a deep dive. It's going to be a little bit in the weeds for a lot of it, so if you're like my parents listening to this, who's like half of my current fan base, you're not going to really understand most of this episode, so don't feel pressured to listen to any of it. Sorry. But yeah, so it's going to go into like kind of like details about the game, stuff that might not interest you, but if you want to learn more about something in my life, then feel free. But yeah, I guess I'll just go into like how this kind of aligns with the podcast because this is a theme. The podcast does have a lot of themes around like purpose in life and feeling present and like that like thoughts about like mortality being present. So like why am I spending a lot of time playing a mobile video game and why do I spend money on it sometimes? Uh, to me, I don't see it as a waste of time because it brings me joy. And that's really all I gain from it, and that's kind of all I wanted to gain from it. It's something that is separate from a lot of other parts of my life. But yeah, I mean, to other people, this might be a waste of time, and that's totally fair. But yeah, this episode might be a little longer than usual. I actually don't know. I have a lot prepared, so it's just going to be a lot to go through. So we'll see. Um, but yeah, just some background around Supercell. If you're listening to this and you don't know who they are, they make mobile games, mobile video games. They're known for Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, Boom Beach, Heyday, Brawl Stars, Squad Busters. Um, I've played Clash of Clans for 10 plus years at this point. Played Clash Royale for 6 plus years. Most of the other games I'm pretty on and off. But I guess my like credentials in a sense, like I play Clash of Clans a lot. It's something that I'm pretty known for amongst friends. I am I have 6 accounts in the game. I'm a max Town Hall 16 currently, level 250, and I'm halfway to a second max Town Hall 16. So I do spend a lot of time. Another disclaimer: I'm a paying player. I probably spend like $7 a month if I had to guess, approximately. I mean, in my childhood, I spent more, like when I would get gift cards and stuff. But yeah, I have like a pretty, if you could call it a resume, for Supercell. I have a pretty extensive resume, lots of experience playing the game. So I think I'm someone who's pretty knowledgeable on the topic. But the focus of this game, like I said, or focus of this episode, like I said, is how can Clash of Clans become a blockbuster, like a AAA game that lives permanently in the minds of people in the same vein as like a World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, Pokemon, Assassin's Creed. And then it'll just be kind of diving into just general thoughts about the game, then thoughts about Supercell in general. So I'm not sure if the like AAA is the term, but I'm basically saying like these games that transcend video games into like media as a whole, and they live in our minds as like a piece of real estate in our minds. Or like it's like how brands like Apple and Nike are so recognizable and so known. Like it's at that level where like I guess like Pokemon is the best example because it's so massive. But then there's other levels to it, obviously. And I guess the first question to tackle is like, is Clash of Clans the one to do that? Like, is it past its prime? Is it like, does it need to be a combination of all the games, or is it kind of finding that superstar that they have and riding it? Because they have very wide ranges of success in the games. All of them have been very successful. Like they're all pretty sure they're all $1 billion franchises besides Squad Busters, which just released. But like the idea of like they have 2 games, Boom Beach and Brawl Stars, same developers. They've been out for like one of them's like 7 years, one of them's like 10 years. But like Boom Beach revenue is super low. Like it's not a very active game. Where Brawl Stars is bringing in like like ridiculous amounts of money. Like currently, they're probably, from what I saw, they're bringing in 50 million a month just on Apple. So they're probably bringing in like 100 million plus a month on just this game, which is ridiculous. And it's kind of like the idea of like allocating resources to what's hot and like realizing like they kind of have, in my opinion, have given up on Boom Beach, which is sad. But like it's kind of like knowing that they need to allocate resources towards their heavy hitters. But like that idea of like obviously Brawl Stars is their current game that's doing the best. But then like Clash of Clans and Clash Royale are also massive games. Um, and it's kind of like that idea of like what do they focus on, like if they're really trying to break into that like upper ceiling of those like that upper echelon of games, like how do they do that? Is kind of like a task that's really difficult. Um, and then like does this idea of like being massive even align with them as a company? I think is another concept because like I like basically like is it their goal to become that massive? Obviously like every game developer wants to become like a big game, but like their mission I think aligns with it well, which I said I'll probably say a bunch of times, but create games for as many people as possible that are played for years and remembered forever. So like to me it makes total sense, like it aligns with them as a company. But I think a big issue that they've had, and then I'll dive into in a little bit, is like they operate in really small teams when they create the games, and they're pretty independent. But then these games scale up into massive products, um, and then they try to keep these teams small and like efficient, but like they just can't. You can't do it very easily. When these games get massive, when there's massive player bases and the players have a lot to demand, you can't keep a small team, and I think it's become an issue with them that like they have these massive games, but they're controlling these massive games from small teams, which is just extremely difficult to make work. And I will dive into this more later. Um, and then to me, like a lot of people from my generation remember games like Clash Royale and Clash of Clans forever. So it does like fall into that like remembered forever. Like to me, like obviously it's only been a couple years since a lot of people have played. Um, but like it's most people, it's like they'll if they see me playing the game, they're like, oh, I used to play that game. But like very rarely someone currently plays, which I think is obviously an issue. And it's like I think it's also like just like the age I'm at, where a lot of people aren't playing mobile video games anymore, or like are playing other video games and stuff like that. Um, and then obviously there's the barrier of it being a mobile game, where a lot of those other ones weren't mobile games that I mentioned, like those big franchises. There's obviously like pluses, which is like the biggest thing is like the low barrier to entry, like short play sessions. It's easy to play, and just like insane levels of reach. Like everybody can play, and there's not really as much of a stigma. I mean, I don't think there's much of a stigma around video games anymore, but there's not much of a stigma around mobile video games. Like it's very accepted, and like everyone plays something generally. And then just like there's a lot of issues when becoming that huge. Like first of all, more serious video game players. Mobile games aren't as like replayable, but then they're also sometimes not taken as seriously. And I mean, it's a lot of them are very puzzle based. They're looking for the short play session, which totally makes sense. But this means that there's smaller play sessions and there's less time played, so then it lives in people's minds less, and it becomes more of like a passing a few minutes when you're on the toilet versus like a longer play sessions. Like I'm not gonna sit down and play a Supercell game for 2 hours. Most people, I mean, there have been times that I've done that, but it's really really rare that that happens. And I don't know if that's necessarily an issue, but it's something that needs to be acknowledged, and that like it's hard to break into that like Call of Duty or Overwatch level when people aren't really playing for that long, so it's not very like streamable. Like it's not there's not as much like hype around it like it is when like Call of Duty just came out. Like the amount of hype and like live stream that's happening around it, like there isn't really that live streaming opportunity, which I think also plays into some of the like lack of content on it. Like there's really just a couple content creators in it, and then that's really it. Um, but yeah, I mean, and then like tying into smaller play sessions, like in Clash of Clans, you kind of just like you log on, you do a couple raids, and then you don't really do anything, because you have to wait for your army to be trained. Which I think a big obstacle of the game is that it's very time centric, and people don't like waiting, which I think is why they've shifted away from the style of game like a Heyday, Boom Beach, Clash of Clans, just with the industry. Like, people aren't as interested in games like that. People are looking for much quicker play, and yeah, I think that it's a big feature. None of them are really designed for those longer play sessions. I do think as they've gotten to the newer games, they become they changed a little bit. I think Brawl Stars has little bit broken that ceiling where it feels almost like a little bit of like Overwatch, but obviously like it's still a very short timed games. Like the games take like 5 minutes, so I mean it's obviously essential. You can't have a 15-minute game. Um, but I think yeah, I mean I'm not really I'm not sure that, like the point here is just kind of just acknowledging the issues that are around mobile games, I guess. But yeah, I'll go into my background with Clash of Clans, my background with the game, my history with the game, um, what I love about the game, what I don't love. So first of all, like the things that I really love. I've been in the same like clan for for like 6 plus years. I've loved it. I've met new people. It's all connected through my cousin who introduced me to the game, and then I've been playing with him for ever since I started, basically. And then I've been with this clan for a while. And then I think just like memories, there's so much nostalgia around it. Like it feels so precious. Like these like I would like have my friends over and we would all like be in the same clan and we'd have like set up like a clan war and we'd all do it together and we'd all plan it out together. We'd like coach each other, we'd laugh, we'd make fun of each other. Like there's so much nostalgia on this game. I think that's a reason that I hold on to it so dearly. Um, that there really are these like core memories. Like my favorite birthday I ever had was literally just inviting my friends over for a sleepover and we just did a clan war, and just ate a bunch of candy and like attacked each other and it was like just fun. Like um, I think a lot of people had these memories, at least of my friends. But yeah, I mean, more that I love the progression. I love the competition. I love the art style. Probably my favorite thing about all Supercell games. Um, I love that there's constant additions and they haven't abandoned the live product. They understand its value. Because to me, Clash of Clans is like the centerpiece of all their games. I mean, it is was I believe their first game or Heyday might have been their first, but it was their first like massive hit. Um, and yeah, I think not abandoning the live product and knowing that it's valuable and it works and there's so many players, and always looking to change things. And it is hard because you don't really know, like the people like players don't know what they want until you give it to them. It's like that Steve Jobs idea where he's like the customer doesn't really know what they want and I have to show them what they want. Um, but yeah, like I appreciate that there's a lot of different ways you can play the game. I like the low barrier of entry to the game. Um, like the polish, like I mentioned with the graphics. Um, they're somewhat open to the community feedback, but I think it's good that they're a little bit immune to the community feedback. Like when people are complaining about stuff, they're not gonna just like quickly make a change because a couple people complained. Um, but like in some situations, they have catered to the community, which is good. Um, Now what I don't love, is part of this is like not controllable, but not many people I know still play the game, which does like suck sometimes. Um, there's an element of FOMO in the game that I think they've taken advantage of, which I don't love with their equipment that they added. But I know that they're trying to fix it and they're thinking about it. But obviously it's a big moneymaker, so they're not really going to change that much. Um, and then I guess revolving around that, the fact that you can't use your heroes when they're upgrading, it makes total sense. I understand it, but it does still suck, and I know it's a huge revenue driver, so that also it makes sense. Then also, I think the intimidating barrier of entry. I think that's a reason a lot of people don't play the game. Besides just like they don't like the game, but like if they used to play, like they remember a couple of years ago when the game was like everybody was like it was like a 2 week upgrade for everything, which towards the upper level of the game still tends to be like 10 days plus. But it takes so long to actually get to that point that like most people aren't gonna actually experience that. But I do get like it's hard to get into the game if you haven't been playing for forever like me. Um, then like they've had issues with their customer support. I haven't faced these issues, so I'm just mentioning it because I think it's important. Because I've seen some horror stories. Um, but yeah, I know it's an issue. Um, then I'm just gonna go through some of my thoughts on the recent changes in Clash of Clans and like kind of where the game is at. Because I mean, I pay attention to all the stuff that's happened. I've played for forever. I've basically experienced every change that the game has had. Um, and overall, I think the game is in a good spot. Um, I think they're trying to evolve it, and it's felt like they're trying to like evolve it in like complexity wise to add some layers to make it so it can kind of get to that maybe like World of Warcraft kind of like level of like some more customization because the game feels very like end to end locked up, kind of like how like it feels like the company kind of operates how Apple works in a way where like their product is the hardware, like where their game is the hardware, and like Apple doesn't let you get into the hardware. Where Supercell it feels like they don't. It's the same. Like they don't let you get that level of customizability. Um, and they kind of like I don't know. It's like lock. You're like it's like not like locked into it, um, but like that level of customizability. I guess I'm not sure if that made a lot of sense, but um, so the first big change that I want to cover is like the 1 year cycle for town halls. So previously they were 18 months to even I don't know if they were 2 years sometimes, probably like 18 months generally. But they committed to a 1 year cycle for the town halls, which is important because I think it showed that they're a commitment to upping the team. But I do think that they only decided to do this because so Town Hall 15 I think was in a bad spot and the casual player wasn't having fun. And so I think they rushed the Town Hall 16 because they knew they had to make a big change. But they also happened to do it during December, which is when they can get that huge revenue boost. So it does make sense money wise. It does get a little bit. I think it's going to get a little bit repetitive, where every year is going to feel the same because it's basically going to be Town Hall update in December, with a ton of content. Then they usually have like an April update, pretty decent size to add more to Town Hall. Um, then like a mid-year something update, and then like a September update, and then the Town Hall. Like I feel like it's gonna turn up. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but like that every year is gonna kind of feel the same in a way. Like with the other Town Hall system, it was like there was a little bit of an element of surprise, which I liked. Like now it's like I know when it's coming, which is good and bad. Um, but I think it's good that they showed a commitment to increasing the team size. I think it's good. I think it's always going to be good to um, increase the team size and make it so they can handle more things. Um, then equipment. I think this is a big topic in the community because I think as a concept, it's great. I like it. I like the level of customizability. There's obviously a big FOMO roadblock, um, with it being basically it's like the idea of like these equipment and items being temporary or not temporary like only available for free in quotes, like you can earn it free without spending any money but it's only for that month. Then in the future, in order to get that equipment, you have to pay the equivalent of $15. um like you don't like it's like with gems that you earn, like but they're extremely difficult to earn and it will takes you a while. And like basically like if someone was to like rejoin the game after a couple years out or even a year out, um, right now they'd have to spend like the equivalent of like $70 to catch up, which is a bit ridiculous because it's like this element of FOMO also makes it so people are scared to stop playing or play less. And I think it brings issues for new players. Obviously, they want the equipment to be special, for the players who bought this equipment. Like if I play the event and I earn the equipment, I want it to still be valuable. And like I don't want everyone to just instantly get it. But I think like there's this element of FOMO, which I think is something that they need to tackle, which I know they're planning on tackling. Next, power creep. Just as a term, I mean the way I understand it is basically like when it's a common video game term, but like let's say there's a I'll connect this to Smite, a game I used to play, and they had a big power creep issue in my opinion. Um, let's say that there's 10 characters in the game, and then each one fills a different role. They add an 11th that just fills the exact same role as a previous character, but just does way better. So that previous character will never be played. So then it feels like in Clash of Clans context, it's like you earn these equipment, but then and you know that a new one is going to come out and invalidate that previous one. So you're like, why should I even earn this one? Like there's rarities of equipments. There's common and epic, and the common ones are almost all garbage. So it's like it doesn't feel worth it to spend on them. But then like an epic one comes out and then it's like not good. But then I'm like there's one that just released that was terrible. But I know I have to buy it because in the future they might change it. But then I'm like, oh, like I have my current equipment that I really like, but if it gets nerfed, then it's bad, and then I'll never use it again, and then I wasted months of resources. So it's like, and that ties into the ore economy. Like, so I'm a paying player, and I'm pretty far behind maxing it out the ores, which I don't know if it should necessarily be possible because I'm paying like the base that you kind of would have to pay, like in order to like it's like the minimum. Like I'm not. It's not like I'm spending extra outside. Like I buy the monthly subscription pass basically. It's not required, but I just buy it. And on my first account, I'm not. I mean, I'm pretty close to maxing it, but not like it would take a while. And I know they're gonna keep adding equipment, so I'll never really catch up. On my second account, I'm not even remotely close. I think they're getting better with the economy of this, but it's a little scary for new players because like there's the idea of unlocking the equipment, which is a whole issue. But then let's say they unlock the equipment, it takes months to earn the amount of ores that you need to upgrade that equipment to max level. So then by the time you upgrade that one to max level, there's been three more added. So it's like kind of like it's just like you can't physically catch up. Like if you were to start now, you just couldn't. You'd have to be selective. Like, and I'm saying if you wanted to start now and unlock every equipment, it would take forever, which is fair. I mean, I understand that's how it works, but it is a balance. Um, the next, not issue, but like topic. Um, they've been starting to switch over to a cosmetic monetization strategy, which I love. I think they're taking a page out of one of their other games, books, Brawl Stars, who, like I said, has been doing insane revenue wise. Clash of Clans has been doing pretty good, pretty solid. Um, but I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. Basically, moving away from a pay to win model is always good. It was basically like they didn't know, obviously, like this is a free game and they need to know how to monetize it. But moving away, it previously, the only way to monetize the game, even before they just added the monthly passes, it was very difficult for them to monetize. So it was basically like you were just paying to directly progress in the game, to directly get better at the game, or like make your base better. I think moving away from this is always good, and I'm glad that Brawl Stars kind of broke open that ceiling to make it so anyone can, or no, basically make it so like people can progress at a similar rate, and that paying is a lot of more revolving around stuff that doesn't impact how good you are at the game. It's more focused on like optional stuff, like you can make your heroes look different or make your base look cooler but not better. So I think it's good. I think it's important because I think a lot of mobile games fall into this pay to win model, and I think Supercell games feel a little bit different because they're, like, to me at least, like their monetization, like being pay to win, because it's a multiplayer competitive game, it's always harder. Um, it's like if you're playing like Call of Duty, you're not gonna have you're not gonna be able to pay to buy a gun that'll make you better. But obviously the game costs money to buy in the first place, so that's where they're making their money. Or like for every Call of Duty player, they're making $70. But then for every Clash of Clans player, they're making zero at a base, and they need to get people to earn it. I don't know what percent of people are paying. Probably less than 5%, if I had to take a wild guess. Maybe a little more. I don't know. But I think moving away from the pay to win is good. It's obviously not directly pay in order to win the game because you need a level of skill in all their games. But yeah, I think it's good. I think I'm glad that Brawl Stars set the example, and I'm glad that they're following along and that they're not being too independent and that they are learning from the other companies, or not other companies, other teams within the company. Um, Shortening their upgrade times, I love it. I think this is big. I think a lot of people, like I said, their intimidation with the game is um, how long the upgrades take, and it's like they're like, oh, I just upgraded something for 2 days. Now what do I do? But in reality, what they're thinking is eight. Like when it gets to the point of like 8 days, it sucks. I think Now they've reduced that amount so much that I think like nobody really knows about it, and I think it's a stigma around the game that's unfortunate. But it's like it's kind of like a people have like PTSD from playing and being like, oh my gosh, like these upgrades are ridiculous, and just stopping playing. I think it's important because obviously like it is a core mechanic of the game, and if someone doesn't want to ever wait, then they just shouldn't play the game. But that there are things like magic items which can quicken your upgrade times, and that they've just every year they slash the upgrade times massively for the lower levels. So, because eventually they have stated that they want their plan to be everyone to be on the max level, which I believe I'll be talking a little bit more about later. But I think that's a really ambitious goal because it's at Town Hall 16 now, is the max. I believe most of the player base is around 12 or 13. So if they want everyone to be at the max, it's going to be a big challenge. And they need to reduce things a lot, especially with Town Hall 13, which is a big issue within itself, just time wise. And then just like as the game grows, there's going to be more and more that goes on, and it feels like it can be a little bit overwhelming at times. Like there's the clan capital, the clan games, the main base, the clan war league, the clan wars, the builder base, special events, special challenges, regular, like it's there's a lot going on in the game, and it feels intimidating logging on and being like your clan is requesting that you complete clan war league, and which is 7 days straight you have to attack once a day, which isn't like crazy. But imagine you have clan war league, then you have like in 1 month there's it starts off with clan war league, which is 7 days in a row of war. And then every weekend you have to do your clan capital attacks, which is 6 attacks. You have to play the builder base. It's optional. You don't need that for your clan. But then there's clan games the last week of the month, which I don't really know how much. I mean, it's that one's more passive, but it's just there's a lot going on, and it feels like you have to be doing everything, or you're losing like potential progress. Which, but I think it is fair because if they want to grow this into like a massive game, it needs to continue to evolve and grow. But I think they need to add stuff that's truly valuable, and they also need to focus on. They need to not ignore these features that they created and have become core to the game, but nobody enjoys, like the builder base. The builder base is not good right now, and I know they tried a massive change and it just didn't really work. And I don't know what the solution is. I wish I had the solution. Um, I might have some ideas in the future of this video or episode, but yeah, there's just a lot going on, and I love it, but I know it's intimidating for the casual player because it feels like a little bit of a juggling act. And if you just enjoy one feature of the game, you kind of need to be doing everything in order to be maximizing your own progress. Uh, and I don't think the team is big enough for the game to be as massive as they want. I think it's getting there, and I think they've been increasing size, which is good. But they have this. The core of it is the main village, your centerpiece, your main village. But there are other villages that exist in other pieces of the game, and they always say like, we want to make the main village as good as possible before we change anything else. But they've been saying this for a while now, and I think they need to have like dedicated teams that are working on the different villages, and obviously they're working together, and making sure that everything aligns with the main village, and that is the top priority. But these other villages exist, and they shouldn't be abandoned. And I do have something that I think could help, at least in taking the some of the load off of the company. I think one is more events relating to the other villages. So builder based single player challenges every week, even regular single player challenges every week. There's a single player in the main village. The builder base could use one. There could be a whole campaign. And I'm not a developer, but I don't think this would be extremely difficult to make because I think they need to open the game up to allowing the community to make maps. Brawl Stars does this and it's been a massive success. They need to open this up, and allow people to make maps and submit them and then be approved. And also, I'm not an AI expert, but I think a lot of these maps can be AI generated. And I think they should just build up a stockpile and then literally make it so every week, this is totally optional. Every week, there's a new builder based challenge on Wednesdays, and you can get a small reward for completing it. I think this can also be for the main village or the clan capital for all I care. But I think it's a way to at least put a little bit of band-aid on the issue of like abandoning these parts of the games. Like they need to um, be rotate, like they can just be rotating in and out maps. They can, it's like you don't need to constantly update it, but you're adding a feature to the game that makes it so there's something to do in these villages, so they don't just like ignore the issue completely. Um, then I'm gonna go into like issues that I think people face and like people's thoughts on the game. Um, so the biggest one I've discussed this the issue of playing catch up and intimidation. If you just look at the game from an outside perspective, there are 16 town hall levels. I've been playing for 10 years and I'm maxed out. I'm like completed with the game at this point, waiting for a new update. But people look at me and they're like, "You've been playing for 10 years." Like, I don't want to play for 10 years. I haven't been playing for 10 years. It's going to take me forever to catch up. So they just don't play. I think the general solution is so they stated that their goal is to have most of the player base at the max town hall level, and they also slash upgrade times every year. But I think I've been toying around with the concept or like been discussed the concept before, and I know in World of Warcraft they did something. I don't know what the exact name is, but it's called like a content squish or something, where basically they like let's say there was like 100 levels of something, they squished it down to being 10 levels, and reduced it and just brought it all together. I think Clash of Clans needs some kind of content squish at least, like in my opinion, like because at this point, because of all the slashing that they've done to the upgrade times, it takes like less than it. You could if I was intentionally like if I was to restart the game and intentionally trying to like move through the game as fast as possible, I could move from Town Hall 1 to Town Hall, I would say 12 in like, I don't know, like 6, 9 months, which is still probably 6 months. If I was playing pretty heavily, I could do it in less, but for free. Um, but you reach this like this point at Town Hall 13 or 12 where like from Town Hall 1 to Town Hall 11 is genuinely like 10% of the game, where then the rest of the 90% is from Town Hall 12 to Town Hall 16. Like, I think some of these lower town halls could literally be squished together. Um, Makes the number less intimidating, and but I know that obviously could create an issue with like it's being like if they squish it down, then there's only 13 Town Hall levels, and they're like, we're releasing Town Hall 14. Wait, you already released Town Hall 14 5 years ago. But I don't know. I think there needs to be something, because I think also just like the levels of the town hall aren't even. I think it shouldn't be like they're reducing every level for every town hall. Like I think all the lower town hall levels are fine. I think they need to be focusing on town hall 12 to 15 right now and really reducing them down, because those are the spots where people get stuck. And I think it should still take a while. Like in my opinion, like the game should still be slow, but with their releasing a new one every year, I think it's hard to that they want to have everyone have to be at the highest town hall, but then also they're releasing one every year, because it takes the year to max out that town hall to be ready to be up for the next one. But then if someone's behind in a town hall level, they're basically consistently at least a year behind. Um, and I'm gonna dive into so there's this website called Clash Ninja. Shout out to Clash Ninja. Basically, it here's a part of the website where it shows like how long it takes to progress through the game. Um, I'll just go through all the town halls. So there's 1 to 16. Um, so basically, to get through, this is like basically combined upgrade times. So it takes a month, about a month to get to Town Hall 9, according to this. Um, Another month for so it's you've spent a month so far. You're on Town Hall 9. Another month for Town Hall 10. 2 months for Town Hall 11. 3 months for Town Hall 12. Then all of these, it basically comes together. So there's different aspects of the game, but right now it says to reach Town Hall 16. Um, this is basically if you are being as efficient as possible, you're making no errors in your order of upgrading things, and you have no downtime. It takes, and obviously you're looting, getting the right amount of loot consistently. This says it takes 2 years and 7 months, for all the buildings, but then it takes 5 years and 5 months for all the troop upgrades, and just about 4 years for all the hero upgrades. That is like this is after a bunch of slashing. I think before it would have taken 8+ years. Like that is crazy, and I think it's an issue in the game because it makes it so it's basically unattainable to reach the end of the game. And this is bad. This is bad for the game, and but I know it's obviously a feature, and I know things are supposed to take time in this game. Totally makes 100% sense, but it's a the game takes a long time, and this is even after a lot of changes. I think there needs to be something done about it. I don't know what the right answer is. I think it's just continuing to slash things down. Um, and it's kind of like finding the balance of like if they've said that their goal is they want everyone to be at the max town hall level, they one need to reduce down these like upper middle town hall levels like 12 to 15, and they need to tackle the issue of like you can't have two things, you can't have both of these things at once. You can't have yearly town hall upgrades along with everyone being the highest town hall level, because it's going to take longer than a year for everyone to get to that level, and then they're behind, like I was saying. um, I think it's so intimidating. Like if I mention to someone, oh yeah, it takes 4 years to max out your base, nobody is ever going to want to play the game. And it's something that is like, it's an issue. And I know the solution is to make things shorter, but I think also some sort of squish would be great. Um, and I know I've discussed this with some of my friends that play the game. I don't know what the solution is, but moving on, there is a lot. I mean, I'm using this term of PTSD. Obviously, like it's not actual PTSD, but like there's PTSD around these upgrade times in the games, and basically like it was known that like years ago that like once you reach a certain point, everything is going to take 2 weeks to upgrade, which is insane, especially for someone who's never played a game like this. For me now, well for Down Hall 17, the longest upgrade I think is going to be 16 to 18 days, which is crazy. But there are ways to there's items that you can get in the game that make you instantly upgrade stuff. Um, there's it's not as hard to progress as it seems, but these times are obviously intimidating. But I think a part of this is like making marketing efforts like show the progression is way quicker than it used to be, and showing all these new things that are in the game. I don't like their current marketing, and I'll get into it a little bit more later. Um, they're trying kind of like the typical mobile game route, and I always saw them as a little bit above a lot of these mobile games that are like focused on just like this like quick grab and like getting you to play the game off of like some ad that's like not realistic. Like they have some ads that are ridiculous that are so untrue, and it'll be like a big button on the screen that just says like upgrade, and it'll show you going from the beginning of the game to the end of the game instantly. And it's like that literally takes 4 years. That is misleading. And I miss their old advertising, but obviously it must be working. But and I just don't like it a little bit. Next, I think a big issue is just like lack of interest, which obviously can't be fixed. Lack of time can't be fixed, in a sense. But I think marketing efforts can be changed, and they can try new things. I loved when they did a Super Bowl ad. Definitely not worth the money because I never did it again. But like I don't know. Trying to reach new audiences, and I think they need to be doing a lot of TikTok marketing for that younger generation. But yeah, and then I think another issue for Clash of Clans, it is an older style of game, um, mobile game. It's very time focused. The rewards are long term. It's very delayed gratification. Different from, at least I differ from like Clash Royale, which is much more fast paced and more catered to a younger audience, along with Squad Busters, very catered to a younger audience. I think it's hard because um, the idea of like creating this into a blockbuster game, like the idea of like is Clash of Clans past its peak, which it probably is, but like to me it just needs some, like it can go back to its peak easily, but it's like whenever they create a new game, it feels like they kind of have to like their goal should be to target that younger generation. Um, so it's hard. And so obviously it's harder when you have an older product like Clash of Clans that's 11, 12 years old, enticing a younger audience, because the older audience are going to be playing less and less as they grow older and older because they have less and less time. And I think it's a big reason that a lot of people just like don't play anymore. Um, so tying into like why people don't play, I like did like a very quick like survey to some friends. Let me see. Here it is. Okay. I did like a very quick survey where I just like asked friends questions, and I sent it to them. I like got a couple responses. Uh, but so the first question I asked was like, why do you no longer play, or why do you play significantly less? The primary things were just like I mean, just like a lack of interest, which is totally fair, and that is an understandable part where obviously like it's like not a very solvable thing, but then also things that were like it was basically like a checkbox thing, um, and the options were um, lack of time, lack of interest, don't play video games anymore, don't play mobile video games anymore, too intimidating to return to. The biggest one was lack of interest. The second biggest one was don't play mobile games anymore, which is also fair. And then another one selected was lack of time or too intimidating. Um, I think it kind of I mean it shows that obviously like I'm polling a very like this isn't representative of the player base at all, but it shows that I mean there's a lot of people that just aren't interested in the game anymore, and to me like it's hard because I love the game so much and I know how fun it is. But I know like some people just don't enjoy it anymore and they don't want to play anymore. And there's nothing that can really get them to play anymore. But I did add the question of what would have to change for you to play. One of my friends who answered this is like kind of exactly what I mentioned before, but like if more of my friends played and we had that same vibe when we were kids, when we compared bases and strategies and did war all together. Obviously, this is like the golden age of Clash of Clans for all of us. Then one of my friends just mentioned like he doesn't want to have to pay for the game, and it kind of feels like there's a pressure to pay, which does make sense. They push their gold pass; they need to make money on their product. One of my friends just said make it fun. Obviously, it just means he doesn't like the game. Uh, then I asked like, do you play any other mobile games consistently? Slash, what are your thoughts on mobile games? First response was no, and I don't like any mobile games. The second was I like mobile games, but I don't like paying for them. Also fair. They are big money makers, which was tied to the next answer, um, which is from my friend Matt. He says mobile games are money makers. Monopoly Go is the highest grossing right now, and it's not even close. He says Honkai Star Rail is the greatest mobile game. Not true because it's Clash of Clans. But I think it's like just like no, I didn't know about Monopoly Go. I didn't know it was that huge. I know they've had insane marketing efforts, but I didn't know that they've grossed like I think it's like 2 billion or $3 billion in the past like year and a half. Like this game is massive and it's so far ahead of everyone else, and their success has been from these marketing efforts. I think it's crazy. I actually just started playing the game today. I wanted to learn a bit more about it, and some of my friends are playing also. Um, I'm just curious to see how they monetize it, and how they're making so much so far. Like, I don't understand why people pay for the game. Like, it's a free game. People are paying like in-app subscriptions or in-app um, purchases. Um, yeah, I mean, it seems like mobile games are just insane money makers. They're printing money, and yeah. And next, I asked like, what's your favorite part of Clash of Clans? One of my friends just said like the clan wars when we meet at everyone's house and attack. That was awesome. Um, One of my friends said the art. I think this is the biggest appeal to me, or just in general. Like I think these games are beautiful, and they're so like end to end. Like the universe just is so like perfectly curated, and the art is so fantastic. Um, Next said like the clan community, which I think is a huge feature of all their games, and it's so central. And I think it's where some of their games have struggled. Like Clash Royale, I think the clan aspect has really struggled. I think Clash of Clans, obviously, it's called Clash of Clans, and it's a key feature. The clans, I think it's important. I think it's the community part is really big. Then least favorite part of the game. First answer, cover this a little bit. Clan capital and builder base feel like a waste of my time. Yeah, they do. I think it's because they added these features in the games and then they just get stale because they feel a little bit two dimensional at times. Um, Next was just like waiting, which is a totally fair concept. Nobody wants to wait for that long. One of my friends said the gameplay in the game itself, totally fair. If you don't like the game, you don't like the game. It's a style of game that's very much slower than a lot of games, not less like action packed. Next one was how long stuff takes to upgrade. I think this is like if Clash of Clans is doing like a consumer like research thing, like this is the customer that has potential because they don't know how much quicker the game takes now. Obviously, if they don't want to wait a day, they're never going to play the game. But it is a lot quicker than it used to be. Then I just added like I fill all like any other things you want to add. My friend said Andrew said that we invented half the ideas that Supercell came up with, which is true because we in like middle school we're concepting like ideas in Clash of Clans. We concepted the siege machines, but they eventually added. We didn't call them siege machines. And then we concepted Clan Capital, which was always my dream feature, which I'm so glad they added. They added my freshman year of college, I believe. But yeah, we would always just be concepting ideas, and I think we should be developers. Um, and then my other friend said, I remember the old scrap Supercell game, Rush Wars. Um, this is one of the games that they killed. I really like this game too. I'll discuss it more after. My next friend said they should make a console game, but like an actual console game, not a port. Like a full-fledged single player in the world of Clash. So they they had a game that they were developing called Clash Heroes, which was kind of this, but I believe they scrapped it or they at least moved it into a different like game and they like closed it for a little bit. It was never globally released. It was a beta. I think this is a good idea. I know they have started a PC slash console like gaming studio that they've created. I think it's in Seattle or something. But yeah, I think this is a good idea. I hope that they pulled that mobile single player game to push to the multiplayer game because or to the um, push the console or PC game because I think it's better and it's like it's the idea of like that longer play sessions. And then yeah, that's what I pulled so far um, from the surveys. I'll kind of just go to my big findings. One being you can't appeal to everyone. At its core, the games need to stay as it is. You just can't capture the whole audience. It's not possible. Second, I thought it was crazy that Monopoly Go is the highest grossing mobile game right now. It's an insane concept. I need to figure out what, like how it's making so much money. I'm definitely gonna explore a little more just because I'm curious. Next console PC games. They have plans. I agree that it shouldn't just be a port. Like Clash of Clans wouldn't be good on console. Next, I think nostalgia is a big feature that I think I hold on to, and that's why I still believe in these games because I've seen what they were capable of. But I know obviously it's difficult because, especially where I'm at, like I'm a senior in college right now, and I play the game less than I used to. Obviously, now I'm still a student and I have a lot of free time, so I do play a lot, but I know like a year from now I'm going to be playing significantly less. And yeah, it's like it's at the end like a lot of games are like just like the reason that the most of the player base is kids is because kids have more time and adults don't really have the same amount of time. And it's better when friends are playing, but like obviously as people move away from each other, like it's harder to play games and it's harder to connect. And it was better when all my friends played, when we would always come together at lunch at school and be talking strategy and arguing and laughing and concepting things in the game. Like these are the things that I hold on to and I hold so near and dear to my heart. Um, Next, what like the next category is kind of just what I like about Supercell as a whole. So they always stay true to their principles, which is just like they have like extremely high bar for their games, and they have this ability to kill games. I believe they said they've killed like 30 games and they've released six now, which is like pretty crazy. Like these are like games that were had teams behind them. They like were being developed, and they just weren't up to par, so they killed them. The culture, it seems so cool to work for. I've looked at like ratings of like Glassdoor and being like how much people enjoy the company. Like it really does seem like it's like so different than every other company, and it seems very desirable to work for. It's very independent. There's not really a lot of managerial hierarchies, which I think is also awesome. There's also a level of secrecy in the company. I do think this is a little bit of balance because I think they can be too secretive sometimes, but I do like that they keep things under wraps, if possible. And then I like when they have these. It's called like they started a series called Inside the Builder Hut, but like I like when they have like interviewing developers or like just talking about issues in the game because I think it's important. And I like that they have these like Easter eggs in these episodes and like I don't know. I like when they get a little bit of a sneak peek into things. I want to be a community manager. I would love that. So I like seeing that. Um, then pushing towards cosmetic monetization versus play to win. I discussed this. I love this. Um, and then that like the games are obviously independent and separate in their management, but each game has like a unique approach to how they do everything. But they still kind of feel like they're in that same universe. I think Squad Busters is that like connecting all the universes because it has all their characters from other games in it. Um, then what I don't love about Supercell. So this isn't just me complimenting the whole time because I know this company has stuff to work on. Um, Weird, cringe, untrue advertising efforts. I don't like them at all. The social media stuff must be working because they're trying to pull these. Um, they're trying to get younger viewers and like people on social media to play the games. I just don't like it that much. Um, Next, what they've done with Clash Royale. I think they've like just done really badly with Clash Royale. There's a video by this YouTuber named Brad. He puts it, but I think that's his name. He puts it best. It's just been badly handled. They moved so far from what made it successful. Their monetization strategy is terrible. Um, I think it's one of the most unique styles of games. Like there genuinely isn't another game that I can think of that's exactly like it. But I think it lacks in these secondary features, like how Clash of Clans has the clan games, Clan Capital. Clash Royale has struggled to find a permanent one that really works. Like their clan wars that they took from Clash of Clans, which is totally fair, doesn't work. The clans are not the same as Clash of Clans. They tried to kind of do the exact same as Clash of Clans, and I don't think it works super well. They've tried a couple different changes with Clash with the clans in Royale. I don't love where it is. It lacks any secondary features, and it just feels like the only thing to do is just like play the trophy road. Um, then I think that Clan Wars idea is like they're seeing success from another one of their games. They're trying to emulate it. I think Clash Royale might have been struggling, or at least they were just looking for. It was at such a high that they had to find something to keep it going, and I think they spent resources on something that just didn't work well, and they were just trying to emulate it because they saw success from Clash of Clans. They were trying to copy the Clash of Clans model when this game is so unique. It won like I'm pretty sure it won like a Game of the Year award. It might have been in just the mobile category, but like this game at its core is so unique, and I think it's their most unique game. And I think there's so much potential behind this game. And I think it has the most appeal to the casual player. I think there's so much appeal to this game, and it's sad what they've done with it. And I would love to be on a team working for it because I think I know kind of the things that it needs, and I think I know I have like my finger on the pulse of a lot of the players in a lot of the Supercell games, and I think I understand these games and I've been playing them for so long, and I think I would love to be in the room discussing some of these issues with people because I think it's something that I care about, and these games mean so much to me, and it's sad to see what Clash Royale, the state of Clash Royale is in at this current moment. And I don't really play that much anymore. I play occasionally. It feels very difficult to get back into. Next, I was surprised by how quick Squad Busters released. It felt like they announced the beta and then like 2 months later they announced the global game after they just killed a bunch of previous games. There must have been data to support it, um, but I just like it felt really quick, and it felt like there's like this pressure that they had so because previous to Squad Buster they hadn't released the game since 2018. That's a long time for a studio to not release games. Um, and I think it might have been this. There's this huge pressure for them to get something out, and I hope the game does well. It doesn't really appeal to me a lot, but I do think it's a cool concept. Next, the death slash abandonment of Boom Beach. They've pretty much 100% abandoned this game. I I don't think it's handled well. I do think I'll discuss this more, but I think there's parts of this game that's amazing, and I think a lot of it they didn't really do well with. Like I think the honestly the multiplayer is just not very good in my opinion. I think the concept is there, but the execution is not great. Um, but yeah, I know it makes me sad because I love this game, and I love the potential of it. But it does feel like it's wasn't unique enough. It was just like they saw the success of Clash of Clans, so they released Boom Beach, and it basically was just like Clash of Clans but on a beach, but like worse. But I do think they've turned a lot of features into amazing things, and I think a part of the reason that I don't play this game is just because I don't know anyone that plays. Um, so for Clash of Clans, I'm gonna talk about some of my like dream features that I think need to happen in the game. I think the biggest one, honestly, both of these are gonna be pulling from Boom Beach because I think there's a lot of good here. Um, First one, let me just okay. First one, PVE raids. So Boom Beach. All right, so Clash of Clans is Clan Wars. Boom Beach has, um, I forget the name of them. Operations. Basically, like you're working together with your clan to fight, um, not real people. Like it's like AI enemies basically. And there's like there's like massive challenges that you're working together as a team to defeat. I love this, and I think Clash of Clans needs more PVE. I do obviously I still want everything to be PvP centric, but I think the PvE idea is awesome. Like Boom Beach has like weekly single player maps. Like they have like different villains in the game that like will appear and be like, this villain is here for 1 week, defeat their village in time, and it's like tons of stages of this village, and like they can obviously be AI generated. They can be people can make these maps. I think it's something that needs to be added. I think there needs to be a more of a single player focus on some aspects. And then also like I think what Boom Beach did with warships, I like. Um, so it's basically as Clash of Clans has builder base, except warships is like you when you play, it's just for the month, and then it resets every month. I think I like this idea of like there being something where there's a clean slate because Clash of Clans feels very like obviously I like that you're building and building and building and building, but I like Boom Beach that there's an aspect in the game that feels very like it resets and it's like a different form of competition that you don't have to invest millions and millions of hours on. I like the mode. I think it would be better if builder base was like this. Obviously, they can do that now, but I like the mode, and I think they need to pull from Boom Beach more because I think they're great features in this game. And then, as I discussed previously, two dream features that came true that were in my mind before Supercell even created them: Clan Capital, Siege Machines. Siege Machines, I think is the perfect encapsulation of exactly what was needed. Clan Capital, long term, it's been 3 years now, I believe. Um, I think it's good. I do think it's extremely repetitive, and it feels very like monotonous. I think they wanted to make it so it wasn't very competitive, which I think is good, but I think it's not competitive enough. Um, I don't know. I don't like. I love the feature. I love that it's a mega village for the whole clan. It's not how I would have done it. But I do. I like the idea of it, and I loved it for years. But I don't. I think they just have struggled with keeping up with it, so that it's become extremely stale. But yeah, I mean those are my dream features. For Clash of Clans specifically, other games I think I could do a whole episode on my ideas for them. Um, but I'll move on. Um, the next section is so it's going over so the CEO of Supercell. I'm gonna mispronounce his name. Ilka Paninen. I don't know. So he's the CEO of Supercell, founder of Supercell. He does yearly blog posts. He started in 2022, as far as I could find. He posts about the state of the company, which I love, and I look forward to reading them every year. I'm gonna start with the 2022 one. It's titled "Our Best Days Behind Us or Ahead of Us," and I'm just kind of gonna pull some key quotes and discuss them. Um, but first, I'm just gonna kind of go into some data about the games, just numbers. So are their best days behind them? Statistically, right now is not their best performances. They're slowly going down over time for Clash Royale and Clash of Clans, especially. Um, their annual revenue has it peaked in like 2015, 2016, but then it had a little bit of a down. And then I think with the massive success of Brawl Stars, it's kind of gone back up. So it's still in a good spot. And I think, and then like revenue for each game last month, I think this is where you can see a little bit of the challenges. So Brawl Stars, this is just for Apple, and this is just for October, I believe. Um, Brawl Stars 46 million, Clash Royale 11 million, Clash of Clans 17 million, Heyday 9 million, Squad Busters 5 million, Boom Beach 700K. Obviously, Boom Beach is performing really, really badly in comparison to all these games, which is fair, and this is why they don't have a lot of updates with the game. They don't really focus a lot of resources, which is totally fair. I think here I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna focus specifically on Brawl Stars. This is an insane level of success. I think this is awesome, and I think it is paving a path that all the games are gonna be trying to follow, which is why they switched this cosmetic monetization strategy. Um, Next, so Clash Royale. I don't know the numbers on how it was doing previously. This game was doing a lot better. It is still performing well, which is I think is why they're continuing with these strategies of like pay to win monetization. Um, then Clash of Clans 17 million is awesome. Like that is a game that has been alive for 12 years. Like, it's crazy that it's still doing very well. Um, the first quote I have that he writes is, developing and operating hit games does not become any easier even when you've been able to release a few. I think this is such an interesting concept because it's basically like he talks about how like having a successful game is like bottling lightning, but then repeating it is even more difficult because you have an expectation, you set a bar. It's very difficult because you've captured success, and now that there's an expectation, there's so much hype whenever they release a game. Like, it's an interesting concept because he does explain like obviously like this is a good issue to have. Because most people would kill to even have one successful game, and they've had five. Um, but I just think it's an interesting concept. Next, him talking about like basically like evolving and scaling for live games. I talked about this before, but like you can't become a successful live massive game without increasing the team size. I think it's good that they're increasing team size. But I'll read his quote that he says, which is basically exactly what I was saying. But he says, the first conflict is related to team size, and specifically team size of the live game teams. As many as you know, historically, a big part of Supercell's identity and reputation has been about small teams. We all believe that in addition to the amazing people and luck that we've had, the small team size has been a factor that has enabled us to create 5 hit games. Small teams innovate, take bigger risks, and move faster as there are less cooks in the kitchen and less process. All this is fantastic when you're trying to develop something new and amazing from scratch. End of quote. So obviously, small teams make great games and they can maneuver very quickly, but big teams are required for maintaining that growth and scaling. Like, so Clash of Clans, this team is moving fast and they're adding new things to the game. They add clan capital and they add builder base, but these teams are small, so now there's 3 features in the game and they're keeping this team in the small. That is a huge issue. And I'm glad that they're tackling this, but right now it's still not in a great spot. They need to have more people focused on things, but they also obviously it's a balance because there can't be too much content being added. Then the next quote he says, so again, we had a discussion about this and concluded that whatever the team does, doing more for players cannot come at expense of the team's health. Overworking teammates cannot be the solution. No one should sacrifice their health and well-being for their team or Supercell's goals. That means we need to do a better job building teams that are healthy and sustainable for the long term. I think this is great. Just as a concept, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but basically prioritizing that long-term growth. I think he talks about like the gaming industry is very like, it has a stigma around being like people getting overworked and underpaid and blah blah blah. And I know I've heard that they treat their employees awesome, which I love. It's a reason I want to work there. Next, I mean, just kind of answering the question, has Supercell peaked? He talks about like, if you believe that the best days are past, then the company can't exist any longer. Like the company would crumble because then the bar would be lowered and they'd be like, okay, we're never reaching that point again, so we're gonna keep things calm. So obviously they're no longer at that peak, but the company has shown that it has an ability to create massively successful games, and I think it's key to hold to these principles that they have, which are independent small teams that take risks, focusing on long-term value, and just always learning and innovating and being excited for the future and being confident in the future. I like how open Ilka is here. He's someone that I would love to just talk to forever. I love reading these every year. So on to 2023. So this one is called The Next Chapter of Supercell. This first quote is, you see, for Supercell to thrive and fulfill our mission, we need to both invent brilliant new games regularly and continuously improve those games for our players, hopefully forever, making something that is already great even better. Doing just one of these 2 things is not enough. We want to do both. So this is that idea of supporting live games and inventing new games. I think building a massive game isn't just drop and release. It's support over the long term, and it's why in a sea of so many mobile games that Supercell games have lasted, because they're very long-term focused. Like, there's been games that will come up and make millions and millions and millions of dollars, but none of these games have been around for 10 years. No game is on the same level. And I think that it was like an issue that Clash Royale faced. Like, it became such a massive success because it has this revolutionary gameplay, but they didn't have an easy route to monetization. besides just making progress super hard and then locking content behind a paywall, the challenge was to make the game even better from an already fantastic spot. So I feel like they lost the plot, if that makes sense. Like, this game at its core was so simple and so easy to understand, and the core principles are why people played in the first place, but they just added so much, and it felt like there wasn't really a purpose behind a lot of what they added. And then now it even feels like they're just adding things to make money, and it's just like doesn't make you feel good, especially if you're a free to play player. You're screwed in Clash Royale. You cannot survive in that game unless you pay money. If you want to be using the most recent stuff in the game, like it's like this idea for the B-Rad video. He basically talks about how, so when you're playing Clash of Clans, they add something new to the game. You know that you can unlock it. If you're like decently far into the game, they'll almost always have something like that, like everybody can play together. Clash Royale, they'll say new card being released, and then it'll be pay $10 to get the card a week early, or pay buy the season pass to get it for that month. You buy the season pass, and then they nerf the card and make it terrible. And they just repeat this cycle. It's gross, and I don't like it. Next, he says teams are trying to invent a game from scratch, a game that does not exist, that players don't even know they want yet, but one with which hopefully millions of players will fall in love. This is an insane challenge, and it's that idea of like, I just did a project on Red Bull, but like comparing it to Red Bull creating its own category, basically you're creating something that with the risk of like you don't know if anyone actually likes it, which is why he talks about getting the game in front of players quickly. But I mean, it's a massive challenge, and it shows why they hadn't released the game in 6 years. Then this next thing I just thought was really interesting. He says more than 90% of our new users come in organically such unattributed versus heavy reliance on advertising / UA. User acquisition, I think. I think this is interesting. It makes sense. They don't really advertise as much as other mobile games. And yeah, I mean, it's just interesting because I think a lot of it, I'm just like trying to think like how they gain all these players, because like 90% of new users coming from non-advertising is pretty crazy. I would bet Monopoly Go probably gets 90% of its new users from advertising. So I think it's just like this difference, this level. It makes sense. They really just don't advertise as much, but I don't know. It's interesting. I wonder what they're attributing these things to, because if it's not attributed and it's organic, like how do you know what to do? I guess it's just make the product as good as possible, and then you know that things will happen. Next, he says, well, this isn't a direct quote, but they launched 5 games, released 30 plus. Well, now they've launched 6 games, killed 30 plus, and they released Squad Busters in 2024 after a 6-year drought of making games. That is a lot. I wonder how often they'd be releasing games in an ideal world. Obviously, it wouldn't be like every 2 years, but like 6 years is a lot, but every year is no. Shouldn't be doing that. But like, I don't know. Like, do they want their portfolio to be 20 games? I don't think so. But obviously, they're very like slow down the process and make sure the product is perfect. I think this also ties into this next quote. It says, when our teams were developing Hay Day and Clash of Clans back in 2012, we obviously had no idea how big they would become. We just created the best games we could and put them out. These days, there's a lot more pressure. Of course, player expectations are higher, but I think most of the pressure comes from within. Sometimes I've even thought it would be easier to develop new games if we had no past successes. So as they get that more success internally and externally, there's that pressure that I think builds up, and there's an expectation that's created. Because Supercell knows that people will install the games anyway that they make, and they will spend money no matter what they release. If it has a Supercell logo, it's going to hit. But they don't want to be going for that quick cash grab, and then even though they know they can succeed with it, I think it's important and I think it's valiant that they don't just release tons of games, because they know the value of when they drop something new. But yeah. Next, he says, when I've spoken to our live game teams, they often say that they're trying to find the right balance between catering to the new players versus long-term existing ones, predicting predictable changes versus riskier ones, improving what there is versus adding to new things, respecting versus challenging the game's legacy. I think this is so like important to realize that they really are catering to so many different audiences. And I think about this when I critique the game, and I need to take a step back because I'm a serious player, and the dev team has to be working towards fulfilling all points of view. And that means sometimes they have to make difficult decisions that they are focused on the long term for, because they need to be keeping so many people happy. And I think the biggest thing is respecting versus challenging that game's legacy. It's like, the core mechanics are why the people played the game, but when you're making changes, you need to be thinking of that, and you need to be making sure that the bones of the game are staying the same. Um, and then just like different ideas that I wrote down from the article. So the growth of team size, that there has to be growth of team size to maintain the content that exists. They also removed the games from Russia/Belarus. Just an interesting thing. To that like a mobile game company would do that. They are in Finland, so obviously they're close to Russia, and they definitely as a country feel much more. They're in a precarious position, and I don't know anything about all of that, but just an interesting concept for them to remove them from there. The mobile game market declined for the first time in 2022, which is interesting also. Also, they mentioned exploring games beyond mobile. But my conclusion is just that growing these live games and releasing new games is a two-pronged challenge, and they seem to at this point to be struggling with both. I think now, I mean, they've released one new game in the like finally, so I think it's good. I don't think I can say that they've succeeded with this idea of releasing new games, just because like it hasn't really been long enough. But I do see them growing, at least Clash of Clans, growing that team out and releasing new content constantly. And you can see that they've increased their pace and they've re-understood their monetization strategies, which I think is great. Then the last article, 2024, which I'm excited for 2025, but that is not out yet. It's called Comfortable Feeling Uncomfortable. It's interesting because I think this one is just like a culmination that them continuing not to find success, because this was written in February of 2024 before they had released Squad Busters. So it basically says, we had not been able to grow our live games and had fallen behind the best companies who had done so. Furthermore, we had not released a new game since Brawl Stars in 2018. The result, I showed in detail, was Supercell falling from the #1 global publisher of mobile games in 2016 to outside the top 10 in 2023. I think this is crazy. I think this is a part of it is maybe just like getting too comfortable, but then also maybe having that bar set too high that there's never going to be a game that they think they can release. But I think it's interesting that they're falling behind in the industry. I think their games are so far above quality-wise to any other mobile game on the market by far. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think these games, mechanics-wise, smoothness-wise, the lack of bugs, the art, everything is just so far and ahead. Like these games are beautiful. Like they're using their own engine. There's no games that are like these games. No game will ever be as smooth as their games. And I think it's crazy because I think the industry, there's so much money in the industry, and I'm sure it's a challenge for them because they realize how much money is out there, but they need to cater and stay true to their core, or risk losing a lot of their players. He talks about how like input that he received, and basically that like people saying that they shouldn't be open to changing, like he shouldn't be thinking about changing the company. First one, like these are just pieces of criticism or input that he says. One of them was, "You guys are the only mobile studio that's created $5 billion games. Don't change what's working." They say. Then the other one is more than 200 million monthly players, $500 million in annual profits, and you're not happy. Next is, look at X Game Company. They did what you're planning to do, and that was the beginning and the end. All the best people simply left. Next, focus on live games, take a mergers and acquisition approach, and acquire new games to your portfolio. Next, you will destroy what makes you unique, which is your culture. I think these are all, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, he's a CEO of a massive, massive company, and he has a lot riding on everything. He obviously cares so much about the company. And he received criticism because, like, obviously, they are the most successful mobile games publisher, creator ever. And but he still wasn't satisfied because they had struggled to release anything new. And I think he's only wants excellence, which I think is good because it's all you should be chasing, especially when you're at a company at this level. You shouldn't be paying attention to the industry, and I think this is him being immune to the industry, which I think is really important. I'm sure it's really hard because he knows that they could do these quick cash grabs, but I think it's good that they're a private company, because they don't have to feel like they need to be constantly releasing products. Um, and then just like being focused on the future and understanding that they can change, even though that their culture is so valuable, they can alter things, but they shouldn't be changing that core. Um, next quote that he talks about, he says, "Honestly, we have not been rigorous enough about deciding about starting new game teams at Supercell. Too often we have ended up with teams which have not had all the required skill sets or team dynamics, have not been what they should be when you start a crazy journey like this. Our bar should be as high as it was for starting a new company." I think this one is interesting because they basically, when they're creating a new game, it's like as if it was a new studio, like creating this game. Um, but and it's kind of like that challenge of allowing independence while also having time to, like, having a constraint on time, but then allowing like a budget and figuring out how much money to give them. Um, and this ties into that idea of like that I think it's good that their core is like it's Supercell. They're creating these cells, which are these mini teams that are creating these games. But it just shows that like the challenge that they face because these companies are creating these games, but then they're struggling to maintain these games that they create, these massive things that grow into bigger than they would have ever imagined. And that like a 10-person team cannot service $1 billion live game. That's just not possible. And I think this is also ties into his idea where he's previously in the other ones where he said like we need to be focusing on the health of our team. And yeah, if you're focusing on the health of your team, these sizes need to be bigger, especially for these massive products like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. There needs to be, but they're also like he also, and one he's mentioned like that they need new perspectives on everything. I think this is important, and I think it's good to have all these perspectives in the games. I think that's why I should be working for the company because I bring a perspective of a longtime player that grew up playing these games. But these small teams can't service these huge games, and if they want these games to be huge, they need to increase the size of these current teams. I love that the small teams create the games, but they need to know when to grow these teams. Then I love this as of him as a leader. He says, "Any mistakes and flaws in our thinking were ultimately my mistakes, not anyone else's. And if Supercell wanted to become better, it would need to start with me and my team, which is a leadership team." And he talks about how they hired a lot more chief, like C-suite people and blah blah blah. This actually connects to I've been having to do reading for one of my history class about like chiefs of staff, and basically that like he kind of feels more like a chief of staff than a CEO or like a president in this example, because it's like a private company and isn't like that many external stakeholders. And I love his leadership style, and I love that he keeps his like very lack of hierarchy. But I like that he's still holding that accountability, even though doesn't have his arms into everything. So some of the stuff isn't directly his fault, but big picture, he needs to be accepting of being that shield for the company. And this is a quote that I connect. It was so James Baker, which is Ronald Reagan's chief of staff, says, "You can focus on the chief, or you can focus on the of staff. Those that focus on the of staff have done pretty well." So this research that I've been doing for class has basically been talking about the ineffective chiefs of staff and how they've been too chief focused, and that if you're too focused on yourself and you have too much of an ego, you're never going to be successful and you're always going to cause issues. But if you're focused on your staff, you're focused on not yourself, you're going to do better. And I think it's good that Ilka is understanding that mistakes are his and he needs to be holding accountability, but that he's very staff focused and very people focused, which I think is important. My conclusion there is just like a company can make changes while remaining true to its culture, and it needs to make changes. It needs to be able to adapt. Supercell is in that upper echelon top of its industry, but they aren't satisfied with this stagnant growth. Like they were just like number one always, even when they were slightly going down. And I think maybe they got a little bit comfortable. I think maybe they just didn't really know what to do. But I like that they're not satisfied. And that's the end of his blog post. I'm looking forward to the next one. I would put it as a huge goal of mine to eventually have Ilka on because I think he's such an interesting person and he doesn't do a lot of media, which is totally fair. Um, but yeah, this last one of the last categories. This episode's running long, but you're seeing how much I could talk about this stuff for days. I'm gonna go through my opinions on each Supercell game, what needs to be done, in my opinion, give my history of each game and why I still play or why I don't play. Um, Boom Beach. So I played since beta. I'm currently HQ level 18, level 44. Um, I love this game. It felt like an extension of Clash of Clans, but it really did start to lose its appeal after the multiplayer became very repetitive and it kind of becomes impossible to progress. The progression is so slow, and there's only one builder, where in Clash of Clans you can get six. So, I don't know. It's sad because it's abandoning a game. It wasn't unique enough from Clash of Clans. They understood the recipe of base builder from Heyday and Clash of Clans, but then instead of like Heyday and Clash of Clans are very different, but they're still both base builders. Boom Beach was just Clash of Clans 2.0, and I felt like they were repeating a recipe that worked instead of innovating. But I do think that there's features to this game that I love. Like I talked about the warships, the monthly modes, the PvE raids. What this game needs is speed up in progression. They need to revamp their marketing efforts after they make all these changes. They need to focus on what makes it unique rather than what makes it similar to Clash. I think they've tried to add these monetization features, just like lazily add these cosmetic monetization features. They need to fix the core of this game, and they need to be spending before they even try to make money, if that makes sense. Like, they need to fix the game and not be worried about burning a little bit of money in order to try to fix these features in the game, and then they can bring it back out and treat it as like a re-release in a way. I think they also need to meet with these other teams and be discussing with other teams. Like whoever's the head of Boom Beach should be meeting with the head of Clash of Clans. I'm sure they do this and they all meet together, but I think it's important, and I think they need to learn from these other games. And I think they need to take a page out of Clash of Clans book because Clash of Clans died. It was really really small. I mean, it wasn't dead, but the game was smaller and it completely blew back up and hit a new peak. So I think it's important. This game becoming huge would be a dream of mine. I love this game. Um, Next is Heyday. I'm level 36. This game is one of the ones that I played the least. Probably, yeah, I would say the least. So my college friends last year played for a bit, for probably 2 months or so. It was awesome having friends play a Supercell game together. This is literally my dream. Like I had to hold it together when they were starting to play and be like, oh, that's cool. Not being like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. Um, it's interesting because it appeals to a non-competitive audience. My girlfriend played it, and this is the only Supercell game that she ever liked, because it's so much more calm. I'm not their target, but I know that they know what they're doing. It's consistent revenue. I genuinely wouldn't change anything about this game. I think it's solid. I think it has an identity. Um, I think I don't fully understand everything in the game, but I think that's because I don't really play it that much. I like the core mechanics. Next, Clash Royale. I think this game is in the weirdest spot. On level 43, 6,700 trophies. I played this game from the first day of beta. This is the game that I think has the most mass appeal. I think this is genuinely, if it's not Clash of Clans, I think it's my bias saying that it should be Clash of Clans, but I think this is their blockbuster. I think this is their biggest, most unique, fantastic game. This game is something so special. It is an origin of one of my rages with video games. Like I would rage with this game so much, but I think they've made a lot of issues with this game. I think they've tried to do this cosmetic monetization route, which I think is good, but it's not really. The game wasn't originally built for it, so it's harder to do. So it kind of just leads to they need to paywall a lot of these features, and it's clearly working if they're making 10 million plus a month on the game. But these features are being locked behind a paywall, which leads to a divide between these paid and free players, and it feels like there's two separate camps, and it feels like they care less about the free player, and they understand that they're focused on only the paid players, in my opinion. Next feature of I think the clans are kind of useless. The clan war update wasn't great. I think they've modeled everything too much off of Clash of Clans, and I think it needs something new. I think this feature needs a total revamp. I don't really know exactly what needs to be on. I think it could be increase the sizes of clans, make it something unique, and then make it so you're partnering up and I don't know. Let's say it's similar to the Clash of Clans model, but it's like there's X amount of hours set out, and you're matched with one other clan or a couple other clans, and you're playing. You have to log on with one of your clan members and do a 2v2 match against two of the other clan members on the other team. Um, and obviously this would be difficult because everyone would need to be playing at the same time, but maybe make it so it's, um, I don't know. This is just me spitballing. Um, but basically making it so the thing that makes Clash Royale so unique is that when you're playing against someone else. You're doing a one versus one. You're both playing at the same time. The clan wars are that, but like it just feels like a lazier version of I don't know. It's this is the hardest one to crack. I think it's just like the issue is like the core gameplay can't really switch that much, so that you can like get a little bit burnt out and bored, and then like you're stuck. You're so you basically have to level up one deck in the game if you're a free to play player, and then if one of the if your main cards get nerfed or they're not good anymore, or you want to play something else, you literally can't. Like if you want to be at a competitive level, it just feels so intimidating, and catch up feels genuinely impossible, even compared to Clash of Clans. I think Clash of Clans seems harder because there's like days where like Clash Royale is like, oh, it's like doesn't take any time to upgrade a card, but it takes so long to get enough to actually upgrade this card. And then evolutions, I think, as a feature are cool, but I just feel like I'm never gonna get them. So I'm like, why do I care? But then it's like I need them. I think they need these secondary features like how Clash of Clans has CWL and clan games and stuff. I think it's unfortunate where clan games are at, or not clan games, clan wars are at. I think this game needs a revival. I think it really does, and I think it has so much potential. They keep doing this thing where they just like give players free stuff and they think it's the solution. They're not focused on these short-term fixes. They need to stay true to their principles. They need to be focused on long-term growth. And I know that they think they can cash out and they can make tons of money off of this game, and they can. But this game has so much more potential. This game could genuinely be $100 million a month game. This game could be massive again. Um, Next is Squad Busters. So I played this a little bit on release with some of my friends. I played a little bit in the beta, but I wasn't super appealed to it, but I enjoyed it. Multiplayer didn't feel super fun. Nobody I knew played besides my one friend, and then we just like both kind of stopped. It also gets frustrating sometimes. It feels like you can't really do anything once you're behind. Um, the core mechanics are just a little bit dry to me. It doesn't feel as revolutionary as the other games, but I'm gonna reserve my opinions because I don't currently play and I haven't played enough total. I think it's just too early to judge right now. I don't think I'm really the target audience. Blah blah blah. Next, Brawl Stars. I don't have my level written down. I don't know. I played like a decent amount, but not a ton. I played on and off. I love the mechanics. I just don't find it really fun without friends. I think this game is great. I love the multiplayer. I love that it has a ranked mode. I think there's insane success right now. I think it's by far. I mean, not even. I think this is their top performer. I see the vision. I see why it's so huge. It's mobile Overwatch. I love it. I just think it's way more fun with people. I love that the cosmetic monetization exists. I love that it set an example for what's possible for their other games and it opened things up. And I like that they're generous with their players. Yeah, those are all their current games. In my opinion, like if I was to be like asked like obviously I want to work in the Clash of Clans team, but I think the Clash Royale team is where I would want to be if I was working there right now, because I think it's the biggest challenge. I think I'm just like this game is such a soft spot in my heart, and I think it's so unique, and I think it just has so much potential, and I think they've strayed away from the core mechanics that make it so good. It was that like it was so easy to pick up and so easy to play, and it was always competitive, and every game was going to be slightly different, and I just feel like it's lost a little bit and been like turned into like a you need this card to win rather than just like the fun of it. I don't know. I feel like it lost a little bit of that. Next, I'm gonna go over some of their games that they killed recently. Rush Wars. Actually, this one was like more than like 5 years ago, I think, but I liked it. It was very two-dimensional and a bit too simple. I really liked the concept of the game. I liked this game a lot. I think it had potential. but I do understand why they killed it. Clash Quest, I knew from day one this wouldn't go global. The core mechanics weren't unique. This just was not Supercell to me. Clash Mini, it kind of was like a Clash Royale plus Rush Wars kind of. I liked it. They made some changes I didn't like. The bones of the game were pretty great, but it did feel like too Clash Royale centric. Like it was just like turn based Clash Royale. So I understood why they killed it. Of these three, honestly, I liked Rush Wars the most. But I understood why they killed it. My final thing is just like my love letter to Supercell, Clash of Clans, everything. Why I think I should be working there. I've been playing Clash of Clans for 10 years now. It's been with me since I was 11 years old. That is insane to say. I'm 21. I've been playing for 10 years. I went through middle school, high school. I'm in college. I still play. I play because it's fun. That's the core reason why anyone plays any game. I wish more my friends played, but I have my clan that I play with. I even met some of them in real life recently after knowing them for like 6 years. I really do. I dream for working for Supercell. I have a passion for their games. I have an understanding from just playing them and understanding and seeing the changes that they've gone through. And I pay attention to how the community reacts. I think, to me, I would love to work for their marketing. I'd love to work as a community manager. I would just love to work for this company so much. And I think I have so much love for it, and it deserves so much respect for like how much that they've managed to do and these franchises that they've created. And my answer is that I think that they haven't peaked, and I think that there's so much potential, and I think it just takes little things to change. And I think my ending thoughts on the Supercell whole thing is Clash of Clans I think is their best game. I think obviously I'm biased. I think Clash Royale is their most unique game. I think this has the most mass appeal, and I think this game has lost its way a little bit. Um, but yeah, that's my conclusion on the Supercell section. I'm gonna quickly run through some of my life updates because I kind of use this as a little bit of like a diary and blah blah blah. Not really diary, but just like life updates. So when I look back on this, I can listen to it. Um, I went to Acadia National Park a couple weeks ago. It was awesome. Um, Everything about it was awesome. We did it over a weekend. The only thing that sucked was sleeping in the motel. It was musty, and I was sick, and everybody got sick. It was cheeks. But oh, and sorry for all the any of the noise in the background. I'm sure you'll hear it. Nothing I can do about it. Sorry. Slammed some Red Bulls for the drives. It was fun overall. Awesome. So beautiful. Next, I'm just gonna say I'm the luckiest man in the world. I spilled water on my laptop accidentally. So stupid. Scariest moment of this year and scariest moment in a while. Insane stress. I spilled water on it. I quickly cleaned it up, shut it off. I like flipped it upside down. I was just freaking out forever. And then it was actually good because it was a weekend that I went to Maine. So I just let it dry for 3 full days. Then every time that I would check it afterwards, so basically the water went into the keyboard, but then I guess it moved up into the screen. And so when I originally checked it, the screen was pretty soaked. So I just left it off. Then when I turned it back on, all the keys work except the fingerprint scanner doesn't work. Totally fine. And then there was it was only like 20% of the screen was pretty water damaged. But now it is literally smaller than the size of a penny. I got so lucky. Next, this is just a section that I've been really struggling with injuries after this race, just on and off. I keep trying to return to running, and I think I just go at it too intensely. I'm still injured. It keeps switching on and off. I just need to take a full 2 weeks off. It just needs to happen. I'm learning as I go. I just keep starting too early. I really need to be 100% healthy, so I'm just going to take a solid amount off. I'm going to continue to work out. It sucks because in my mind I'm like, oh, I'm losing fitness, but like it doesn't matter. I really need to take the time off to get back to 100%. Next, I've been sick for 2 weeks now. Sucks. I'm finally coming out of it, I think. Won't take breathing through my nose for granted anymore. Definitely. But yeah, for the injury, I definitely got lucky that I never got injured during my training. I'd rather get injured now. But yeah, I think I need to stop taking things for granted. I need to be strengthening my body and making sure that I'm in the best shape possible. Next, my goal is just like becoming less. Even though I love ultra running and I completed my first ultra marathon, I need to become less ultra with exercise, and I need to become more balanced. Having like yoga, stretching, biking, running, just basically injury prevention as a whole. Yeah. Um, yeah, I just need to become more balanced. I need to be focused on my injury prevention above all. Um, Lastly, yeah, I mean, this is episode 8. This is a little bit different. This is a little bit more niche, extremely niche, actually. But yeah, these first 10 episodes are going to kind of feel like a capsule of things that are important to me. And I think this is a key part of my life. And I enjoy Supercell games. I love Clash of Clans. I hope to work for Supercell one day. But yeah, so this is a part of me. If you made it this far, I'm impressed. Especially if you don't play Clash of Clans or never have, I'm even more impressed. I hope you play. I think it's great. I've gotten a lot of joy out of it. And yeah. Also, I can finally say that I've told more people about this. I told some of my friends at school. I told all my friends at home. Um, yeah, I'm proud of myself where I'm at. It feels weird recording this, especially because I can like hear my roommates in the background. Hopefully, it wasn't. The audio was fine. But yeah, thanks for listening. Maybe this will get me a job at Supercell one day. Yeah, that's episode 8. Thank you for listening.